Elected leaders in Evangeline Parish are celebrating a new detention center set to open in the coming weeks. I was there as the public got a first look inside during a sneak peek of the facility. A new chapter for Evangeline Parish. The 45,000 square foot detention center sits on 5 of 10 acres donated by the police jury. The price tag, $22 million.
So it's not cheap.
That funding comes from a $25 million bond backed by a 1% sales tax voters approved in 2021. Sheriff Charles Guillory says the community made it happen.
It takes teamwork and all the people of Evangeline Parish, we did it together. We pulled it off.
The new facility in Ville Platte can house 200 medium security inmates, including 20 women and 18 maximum security inmates. There are also 3 juvenile holding cells limited to 72 hours. For the sheriff, the extra space is a game changer.
We have room. We have room. The other facility, we have no room. We can't do nothing.
He's talking about the current jail in downtown Ville Platte, next to the courthouse, which will still be used on trial days. But State Senator Heather Cloud says the problem goes beyond space.
Just lack of security, the facility being so old and dilapidated.
The new center is built with security in mind. 7 detention officers per shift, extensive camera coverage, and design features meant to prevent escapees.
So if you're coming in to this particular facility, you're not getting out on your own volition.
But leaders say this facility is about more than confinement. The sheriff plans to focus on rehabilitation with programs funded through the Department of Corrections, including mental health services, education, and more. He also hopes to add a chapel.
Many people, when they view these facilities, they view it simply as a place to hold people, but this can also has the possibility to be a place of transformation and resurrection for those who are spending time here.
Father Casey Duga blessed the facility and hopes to minister to inmates.
Hopefully bring about transformation that when they leave here, they become productive members of our society.
The facility also features modern upgrades like virtual courtroom technology, allowing inmates to appear before a judge without leaving the building. That could save the parish money. Right now, the sheriff's office spends $30,000 to $50,000 a month housing around 40 inmates elsewhere.
So guess what? That 30 or 40, I don't have to pay for anymore. So we'll bring them back home. And we want to bring them back home because they're from Evangeline Parish. They have family here. We do have visitation where they can come in and visit. So it's going to work out pretty good.
Sheriff Guillory says inmates could be moved into the new facility within the next 3 to 4 weeks. He also plans to expand the sheriff's office footprint on the 10-acre site in the future.